Kyoto was the one-time capital of Japan, and the city itself dates back to the 6th century and before. If you're Japanese and want to take a walk back through history, this city will be at the top of your list. Kyoto is such a symbol of historic Japan that Japanese tourists will often rent kimonos to walk around town in during their stay here to help them really get into the vibe of this ancient city. If you're a foreign tourist, Kyoto is most likely your second stop after Tokyo on your tour of Japan because of its well-preserved buildings, temples, and old-school charm. For us, this is the place to meet artists who have centuries worth of tradition running through their veins, with equal measures of modernism, creating something new while staying rooted in those ancient techniques. Kyoto, the place where ancient and modern come together to form something greater than the sum of their parts. I'm Ian Grant, and I've spent the last 3 decades using my background in history and art history, exploring cultures all around the world. In this series, I'll take you to places I've never been to before. Experiencing local life through the lens of the world's artists, artisans, and keepers of culture. This is Culture Quest.
Gustavus Adolphus College equips students to lead purposeful lives and act on the great challenges of our time. Gustavus, make your life count.
Over 1 billion people live with preventable blindness.
SEE International partners with volunteer doctors to provide sight-restoring surgeries in underserved communities around the world.
Their organization is united in one mission: to restore sight to the blind.
They purify the air I breathe and the water I drink, keep me and the planet cool, and give me a career I love. Trees, when we take care of them, they take care of us.
We all seek different in our own ways, because different reflects who you are, who you want to be. The Northern Territory, different in every sense.
The guy I'm with is Mac Page, and he's an old family friend from back home in Minneapolis. He's lived in Japan now for over a decade and has a degree in Japanese linguistics. He's also a professor in Fukuoka, so he'll be acting as an occasional translator in this episode.
Yes! All right! Nice to meet you. I mean, welcome.
This is Daijiro Hama, and he is a rising star here in Kyoto. His work is typically in monochrome, painting abstract figures with a strong use of negative space, letting the emptiness and subtle tones have as much importance as the bolder strokes. And he has lived the quintessential starving artist's life. Ironically, his career started in Canada when he moved there to make a change in his life.
And where were you in Canada?
Toronto. Yeah, it's like I had lots of experience, and it's like I got some like homeless experience, like because of the completely just up, you know. So it's like, yeah, but this is also learn that, you know, this is can be happen in your life. You know? Right, and then I think that was the first time it kind of opens my mind to something. I didn't know anything about art before. I just like drawing a lot. It's everything. It's like little bits.
Oh my God! Yeah. So this is all
like it's everything. This is like I always carry it every day in my bag. I really focusing like some idea from just every day.
Yeah.
Like just something small, and then I feel like okay, I want to make as in a painting.
Yeah. So was it in Toronto that you really started to produce?
I was in an artist collective, and then someone just like I think started to talk about me, and it's like just can you come to my studio? And I started to go all the time, just hang out, look at it, and then they started to ask me to work together, do something.
Yeah.
And then I just like more liked it, you know. When I came back to Japan, then I started to decide, okay, I'm gonna do like paint, you know, I wanna live as an artist.
Yeah.
Back in Kyoto, an older artist named Reiko Yoshida took him under her wing and taught him about traditional Japanese art. In particular, she got him interested in sumi ink.
Do you know sumi ink? It's like a traditional Japanese medium. After dried, it becomes completely different vision.
Right.
It's more depth.
An ink made primarily from soot, and stylistically it relies on negative space and bold strokes in painting and calligraphy. So for the next number of years, all he did was hustle.
Yeah, just like keep doing an exhibition and then showing a piece and then have a feedback from people and then what I want to do next and then just keep doing it, yeah.
Doing performance pieces, collaborating with other artists, getting installations in a dentist's office, in a friend's guest house.
This one is another collaboration, right?
Yeah. He made just main mandala.
Yeah.
And then I basically made a whole space. People usually don't see it, but when they're kind of chill or relaxed, then start to see something in the image, which is that's their creation, right? It's like for me, this is a kind of communication with the people through the art.
As an artist in Kyoto, is it a big community? Do people kind of work together? And
yeah, it's like really old school, like idea of the traditional Japanese mind. It's like about maybe community and then how you connect to the people and then how you, for example, how the art is developed here, you know. It's like a really classic. That's what I liked about it.
Not long after filming this episode, Daijiro moved to Europe and took his art to the international stage. And as he says, he brought his Japanese sensibilities with him. He now has shows in Paris, Amsterdam, Tokyo. He sometimes even sells out his pieces before they're hung on the gallery wall. For an artist going from homeless in Canada to selling out his shows is a pretty impressive story arc. As we were packing up at Daijiro's, a completely random thing came up, although it does sort of tie in with the segment later on. We had to leave it out in the television version of this episode, but here in the limitless world of the internet, we can fit it in.
all right, so here's the twist that happens off camera. I see Daijiro has this cool tattoo. He says, oh, my buddy did this tattoo. I say, who's your buddy? And he said, that's my buddy right over there. He's got the full...
full suit.
Full deal that won an award or something?
Yes.
So we're going with this. We're rolling with this because this is pretty cool. And whatever you want to do, because I would love to see this. This would be awesome. Yeah. Yes. Oh my God. This is so great. Wow. Oh. Thank you so much for doing this. Oh, the back of your head. Oh, wow. How many years did this?
Around 5 years.
5 years to do this?
The session is over 70 session.
Do you think each session is 1, 2, 3 hours?
Yeah, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 4 hours.
Wow. Do you mind turning around again this way? Yeah. That's just so cool. So this won an award in Singapore in a
Taiwan.
Taiwan convention last year.
I was just asking him, I was like, so do you feel naked when you're like this? And he said, no, this is very natural for him. This does not feel like he's not wearing clothes. His exact words were no embarrassment, no shame.
No.
This is very,
you know what it should be is a whole helping of hell yeah, this is awesome. This is so good. Okay. You win, man. Yeah, you totally win. You win first prize. Yeah. I don't know how we even get out of this. I don't know how we leave this scene because that just happened. Okay. Yeah.
This is Naoyuki Ogino, and he has been a professional photographer for more than 20 years and has worked in places like Mexico, Uzbekistan, China, Myanmar, and has won awards in several countries. He does large-scale installations all the way down to the smallest of impressions. He specializes in salt printing, a technique that dates back to the early 1800s. It's a process that by its very nature evokes bygone eras. Perfect for Nao's subject matter and his drive to capture mystical places and disappearing worlds. But he's probably best known for a project he's been working on for the past 20 years, photographing the lives, the tradition, the culture of geisha, from young apprentices all the way up to full geisha. The first 10 years of his project was spent photographing one woman, Komomo, from her early apprenticeship as a 15-year-old all the way up to her becoming a full-fledged geisha. He won international recognition for this series in publications all around the world, as well as publishing a book called A Geisha's Journey in 2008. Getting a behind-the-scenes look at a geisha house is a rare thing. So when Nao got permission from the woman who's the head and guardian of the geisha house for us to talk to an apprentice named Kawaki-san, we jumped at the opportunity and dove right into one of the most recognizable elements of Japanese culture, yet one shrouded in mystery, especially in the West. In Japan, there is no question as to the critical role geisha play as keepers of Japanese culture. But in the West, their role gets a little foggier, in part because of the way they're portrayed in Western pop culture, as well as just straightforward cultural confusion.
So there's kind of a misunderstanding who do the art, like a geiko, and the prostitute. So it was because before they were in the same area. So so it was, each house was kind of next to each other sometimes, and the foreigners, they didn't know which one and which.
They couldn't differentiate between the,
And maybe they're wearing a kimono, and so they thought, oh, same.
All the same.
And while there are, of course, cases of geisha involved in prostitution throughout history, it was rare and not at all part of a geisha's traditional role. In modern times, it simply doesn't exist. The geisha tradition dates back to the 1600s when men were actually geisha, eventually turning completely over to women in the 1700s. Back in the day, you were either born into or sold into this life. In this day and age, it's the apprentice's choice whether or not to join or whether or not to quit. It's not an easy path, especially compared to all the other options out there for a teenager in modern-day Japan. As a result, the number of geisha has significantly declined over the last number of decades. Kyoto, and specifically the Gion district where we are, is the top place to study to become a geisha, and the most difficult. This is Kawaki-san, and she was kind enough to talk to us about what it's like to be an apprentice geisha in modern-day Japan. And for clarity's sake, in Kyoto, an apprentice is called a Maiko, and a geisha is called a geiko.
What made you decide to enter this life?
こういう世界があること自体も分からへんから。そうですね、インターネットとかの動画を見てお着物が綺麗やなと思いまして、憧れました。
So you leave home, you live here, you go to school here, all these things do you have friends that are here as well?
その同期の子がお友達やので、舞妓さん同士でお稽古場でお話しさせてもらったりとかは。
There are special schools that the geisha houses send their maiko to, with an emphasis on culture, music, performance, and language. It takes 5 years of intensive study, and when they're not in school, they're pretty much training all the time back at the house.
リラックスする時ですか。なんですかね。なんやろ。
ほぼないかな。
そうですね、24時間修行やので、
I asked her that how many of them who started Maiko become a full-fledged geiko.
Yeah.
Then she said that maybe it's a half that become a full-fledged geiko.
Yeah.
And everything changes if she makes it all the way to full geisha.
子供から大人になるみたいな感じやので、責任も重たくなりますし、そうですね、自前さんになって一人でやっていかなあかんので、
Apprentices are taken care of by the house they live in, but when they make full geisha, the responsibilities of making a living fall squarely on their shoulders. And it's a career that could last into their 30s or early 40s. But this lifestyle also comes with its social challenges.
For her, what is the tough is that, well, all the Maiko, they have that hairstyle. They will keep this hairstyle for like 5 days or 1 week. They don't have so much possibility to go to anywhere because people will notice out there. So she has very limited places that she can walk or live.
So many tourists come to Kyoto with the hopes of seeing a geisha walking in the streets of Gion, and sometimes that attention is just a bit too much. Being followed in the streets, tourists sometimes being too aggressive trying to get that perfect vacation photo. This is what Kawaki-san is referring to.
We said that Maiko is a kind of a moving museum.
The Maiko wear more decorative pieces than the geiko do, which is why Nao is referring specifically to the Maiko as moving museums.
Everything is a kind of the piece of the art. Everything sometimes very expensive, and every time it has a meanings. By the season it changes.
毎月変わる舞妓さんだけしかつけられん花かんざしっていうものです。でこんな小さいその絹のものを職人さんが一枚一枚こう折ってくっつけてこれができてます。これも舞妓さんしかつけた花にその銀ベラっていうもの銀でできてます。これはもうつけた花です。
This is like Maiko style kimono. So they have a long sleeve. This is only for the Maiko. When they become a full-fledged geiko, they will be a shorter one. This long obi is also just for the Maiko. So when you become a geiko, you have a more short one.
It's a smaller one. Okay.
They are concerned that the craftsmen who are making the things for them are getting less and less. Like every year, somebody quit because they are old. So then every time they will struggle how from the next year they will get that things or that part of that.
What's your favorite thing about it, about this life?
やっぱり同い年の子に比べて、その早く社会勉強ができてるっていうことが一番ですね。いろんな方にお会いしてお話しさせていただくことが一番のエッセイだと思ってます。
Geisha are a living part of the elemental identity of Japan. And while there are still women like Kawaki-san who are willing to take on this lifestyle, it's hard to tell what the future holds for this tradition. Thankfully, in modern-day Japan, that decision of whether or not to embark on this epic journey is ultimately up to the women like Kawaki-san who will decide for themselves. We're now off to meet with a top tattoo artist who's trying to change cultural perceptions surrounding his profession here in Japan.
Look at this beautifully lit place.
失礼します。喋れます。もう一度の方は喋られませんけど。
This is really nice. This studio is not at all what I expected in a tattoo parlor.
It's really beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's well lit. It looks like he's almost in a dentist's office.
Yeah.
You picture this sort of dark, kind of dank, you know, gruff, booze-filled kind of.
The neon light kind of flickering.
Yeah. You know, all right. We've been to the same place.
でこのデザインもレイさんがはい。So he said that he's the one that designed everything in here. Obviously, all the logos, all the art, all of his own from his own mind.
You've been doing this for
about 15 years.
Oh, okay.
15
so
years,
a while. You started young, 16. Yeah, that's young. That's pretty young.
That's young.
That's pretty young. Part of the tattoo world involves the infamous, you know, full body tattoos of the Yakuza and taboos and things like that. Is there still a lot of taboo around tattoos in Japan?
Yeah, of course. Tattoo is very young people. Very good culture and changing. But irezumi, irezumi is Yakuza style. Japanese people say tattoo and irezumi is different.
The Yakuza are similar to what the Mafia are in the United States, and they've been around for the last 400 years. They are known around the world for their full-body tattoos, and those tattoos hold very specific meanings in Yakuza society. They are often quite stunning works of art, and are also a big part of why there are such taboos surrounding tattoos in Japan.
そういう公共の施設は
まだですよね。
やっぱりまだ日本の考え方は古いので。
わかりました。So he's saying yes. So basically, it is changing. So it's not strange for younger people or the average person just to get a tattoo.
Yeah.
However, things in the overall culture, the big picture, are slowly changing. So if you want to go to a hot spring or you want to go to a pool, if you have a tattoo, you still can't go in. Like that's still stuck. That's still stuck in the past.
To be clear, our friend back at Daijiro's place is not Yakuza. In a way, his willingness to go full-body tattoo in Japan is another indication of how tattoo culture here is changing.
He's opening up a tattoo school as well. First Kyoto, and then also next one is Tokyo. Yeah.
But the more like you have these schools, or one school and about to have another one, then the more you're, bringing young tattoo artists up, it becomes less a taboo and more of an art form that people will hopefully find interesting and accept as time goes on. Does he have any idea what success fail rate is for a tattoo artist?
私のスタジオに来れば 85%.
For students that come to his school?
Yeah.
He said they successfully...
I already like the answer to this.
85%.
Yes. All right.
85%.
I like that confidence. Yeah.
The interview process is just one step of it.
Yeah.
Finding out the person's character, their mannerisms, or how they actually interact with people, how they deal with people.
Yeah.
That's a really, really important thing. He said even if you don't have artistic style to begin with, that's okay. We can teach you and we can go along. But what you can't change is a person's character.
Do you know when you see it, when you're finished? Do you know like, oh man, that thing?
He said yes, he does.
Yeah.
He knows it. When he gets that, that's just the best feeling in the world. He feels on top of the world.
Yeah.
When he gets that,
It looks like you must have that feeling often, man, because you're doing some great stuff.
やっぱりよくその気持ちありそうですよね。
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Kyoko Ibe. She started showing in art galleries in the early 1970s, and her resume since then is beyond impressive. Solo exhibitions in over 20 countries, workshops, pieces in major museums around the world, public art commissions, stage art, and most recently she received the Kyoto Cultural Merit Laureate. Her art revolves around traditional Japanese papermaking, taking these ancient traditions and transforming them into something completely new. Today, her focus is on one particular kind of paper, Gumpy paper.
And Gumpy
is a paper fiber.
Okay.
Only grow in Japan. Many scholars say name the paper king of paper.
Okay.
I say noble queen. Even by recycling, quality does not change at all. This means 100 years old. Think about handmade.
So you're saying this actual piece is 100 years old?
Yes. Look. So strong. You
oh,
can't
wow. Yeah.
hear.
Yeah.
You can't hear.
That is. It's super strong.
Rembrandt used this paper and he tested with many different type of paper, Chinese paper, Indian paper, Western paper, or vellum, all these he experimented.
Yeah.
And he really
It was always this.
Because of this surface, no?
Well, and he loved all those super dark, hidden kind of corners in his work. So he'd want something that held it really well. So this is the whole recycling process.
Yeah.
She takes old Gumpy paper and
put in the pot. Cook, and then put in the beater.
They then put the Gumpy into this beater for a while so it can break down.
And comes like this.
In a kind of a gelatinous paste.
And then color. You can mix all these powdered mineral directly to the fiber and get the color. This is a kind of a mineral or the lapis lazuli. Very expensive.
Lapis lazuli, yeah.
This is a kind of mixed glue. kind of a hibiscus or okra. Yeah.
He's filtered out the stuff, right here. So underneath here, glue.
Glue.
Oh, there's the paper.
Yeah.
How long will it take that to dry to turn into paper?
But I don't 10 minutes.
Oh, really? Oh. We just went from putting dye into recycled gumpy and then put the glue from the root into that, poured it into the form, put it out here, and not even 5 minutes later, there's a piece of paper. It just came from this, I mean, from that little blob of gumpy.
Now we take everything we just learned about making gumpy paper and really scale it up.
5 minutes we will start pouring.
Each of these compartments is filled with a sort of liquid gumpy, and below the trough is a giant fabric screen that the water will filter through, leaving the dyed gumpy sitting on top.
So they've got two clamps.
Okay, go.
They pulled it. You see all the really subtle color differences in what Kyoko's put in there. Are you kind of making it up as you go along, or did you come into this with an idea?
My perfectly open to the water and react to their mood. I don't control at all. I just react.
All this is going right through the screen, so the colors that you're seeing go in here trap into the screen and create the print. It's this really saturated moment in time where all this creation happens, and there's no going back. So she's got like 5 minutes to do this, and once it's done, it's done.
And this is the most beautiful moment, I know.
You can start to see it appearing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Never touch on the surface by my hands or any brush, and just water.
Yeah.
Make all these images. Water is everything for paper making, from material process until finished piece.
So right where she is, there are little slots cut into the table, and there's a wet bag underneath, and they just bring it along, and it sucks out all the water.
The next really important moment is removing the gumpy paper from the fabric screen that the water poured through, revealing the piece of art.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
This is so cool. I absolutely love this. Yeah.
Thank you. %100% gumpy.
It's this magic paper. It's this magic fiber.
All fiber alive and change by time.
Yeah.
Let's say half an hour, change completely.
And next, she brought us into her home studio.
Yeah.
She has a lifetime's worth of creating in this place. And every room we step into seems like entering a different era of her work. And it all traces back to the art of paper making.
You're taking these old techniques, ancient techniques,
yes.
but you're modernizing them. So to me, you're acknowledging tradition and moving it into a new era. This is such a great. So this is spectacular. So this is your another. What do you call this series with the arch? Horizon. So like the technique that we saw out there, it's kind of that same technique, except on top of that, and you have this kind of long screen of bamboo that you've already shaped like that. Yeah. You roll it out while it's still wet. It kind of sticks in. You flip it over. You let it dry that way.
Horizon we see is like this, but I don't know. I didn't know why, but I really wanted this type to accept the energy of the cosmos.
Yeah.
Because all my knowledge and about paper fiber or traditional paper making came down from my ancestor to me. I have to accept.
Kyoto is a place where the ancient and the modern happily coexist. Instead of one era overshadowing the other, the artists here seem to build them up together, taking techniques from centuries past and putting a modern twist on them, changing the way traditions are perceived in modern culture, bringing forbidden art out of the shadows, and creating something completely new out of century-old recycled paper.
Gustavus Adolphus College equips students to lead purposeful lives and act on the great challenges of our time. Gustavus, make your life count.
Over 1 billion people live with preventable blindness.
See International partners with volunteer doctors to provide sight-restoring surgeries in underserved communities around the world.
This organization is united in one mission: to restore sight to the blind.
They purify the air I breathe and the water I drink, keep me and the planet cool, and give me a career I love. Trees, when we take care of them, they take care of us.
We all seek different in our own ways because different reflects who you are, who you want to be. The Northern Territory, different in every sense.